Okay, it's off now. So now maybe it'll... Go ahead and turn yours back on. So we're totally doing this on the fly here. Right. So this is awesome. So is it playing or not yet?
Should be.
Okay. Is your computer still muted?
No.
Okay. Not hearing anything. Oh, I see. I can hear it now, yeah. And there's some singing. It's very pleasant. I like this.
It's pleasant music.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's not... I mean, it's playing.
Well, it could also because it's 30-second delay, right?
It's already been a little while, though, right?
Yeah. And the music is back. Oh, God, it's back. Now it's soft. Okay, that was the problems. I had it playing.
I guess so.
On my web page. Okay, here we go. So now it should match the levels.
It should be fine.
Yeah. So now it's just very quiet in the background.
Okay. So the reason that we're trying to do this, and
yes.
you know, let us know, whatever. We're keeping it on, folks. All right. Deal with it. At least for this segment.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, as you all know, Twitch has been. Completely in violation of virtually every copyright rule on the books since its development. Yep. That's kind of the nature of the thing. It's built to show streams of video games. Okay?
Right.
In showing a stream of a video game, you are showing the audiovisual work of the video game, which is a copyrightable work. Okay? But you're showing it. Right. And one of the exclusive rights that you get if you own a copyright is to limit other people from, or to only do yourself, public performances, public displays, reproductions, all that stuff. Twitch has just been mauling that.
They said, whatever, we don't care. Just stream whatever you want. Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, not the case anymore. So now, with one small section of copyright is this big old, it applies to everything, all right?
It's ridiculous.
If I draw a drawing on a napkin, it's copyrighted automatically. It's very stupid.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, it's just the stupidest thing.
So in other words, the VXG contract, the tournament organization was copyrighted.
Well, I don't know if that rises to copyright,
but it was drawn on a napkin, for sure.
In any case.
So yeah.
So they're carving out this tiny part of copyright about music, and they're saying that you can't violate the copyrights of not even all music, of the companies that are subscribed to the particular service they're using to block out copyrighted songs. So that's the news. Twitch has announced, including other things, that they are going to look through all archives.
With an automation system.
Automatically.
Yeah, basically what YouTube does. I'm sure they're using the same service that YouTube is using.
I heard that they're using a competing service.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Which doesn't make any sense because they announced that Google was going to buy them out.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay,
That's an interesting point, for sure.
Okay.
So the news is that they'll go through archives automatically, and if there's something that's found infringing in the music, then that section is muted.
Like 15-minute chunks only on the VODs, the video on demands, the archive
archives.
videos.
Yeah, so they're not doing it with respect to live stuff, and they've said that that they're planning not to do that.
Scoot over here a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. So so that's the news, and it caused kind of an outrage.
Yes.
Because that hasn't been the only bit of news to come from Twitch, right? There have been other things too.
Yeah. So for example, they said the archives aren't going to last forever anymore. So basically, archives are... At first, you know, pretty much what you had in your archive was just going to sit there forever on a server. But now they're going to make it so that archives last only... At first, it was only going to be 2 weeks, I think. And then I heard they backed off of that a little bit and might make it last a little longer because everyone started complaining about it. But yeah, it's obviously a storage problem for them. Keeping around those videos takes a lot of space, but...
I mean, they said that it was only going to be in 2-hour chunks at first.
That's right.
It was just the highlights that you could keep, and you could keep 2-hour chunks. And that's a big problem for some people. Maybe not for fighting games because we can just split things up into 2-hour segments. Maybe not a big deal. That's how long top 8s last sometimes, so whatever. But if you're a speedrunner doing a game that lasts for 4 hours...
You're screwed.
You're screwed. Yeah, I mean, that's... You know, so that was a big problem for them in particular, but for other people too. I mean, there are plenty of broadcasts that last much longer than that. That's happens all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so like casual sessions, just people will be playing, or just even let's plays, right? I mean, half these games last like 20 hours when you play the single player mode if you're playing them. So they set out a bunch of rules, and right now the one thing that they're trying to do is get a lot of feedback. I mean, there's a lot of really funny things that have been going on, like video archives on the actual Twitch channel got tagged for
infringing copyright.
For music copyright. Yeah. In-game music is getting flagged, even though the whole purpose of the channel is to stream games.
Right.
But in-game music, because sometimes they sell soundtracks on iTunes or Amazon or whatever like that, is now marked for copyright.
Yeah, they also said that they're not intending to get rid of game soundtracks. Mm-hmm, they're trying not to get away from that. But I think that you're right. I think that that's part of why that happened. Yeah. But another reason is that these automated systems tend not to be super reliable. Oftentimes there are mistakes. Mm-hmm. Happens with YouTube all the time. This happened to a lot of my clients, where their videos will get flagged as being infringing. It's happened to us even a couple of times, where they're marked as infringing, even though they're not infringing. We have had the license for some of the things that we've shown, but YouTube doesn't know that. They just assume that we don't have the license, and so they flag us and they mute it or they whatever they do. So that's a big problem with this kind of automation.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that they did was on the VODs now, they've added a contest button. Right. So that if you do have stuff get flagged, you can actually click that and actually argue with that. For example, I do believe that on the show That Sucks, didn't a segment that Hanzo was actually physically singing with like no background music get flagged?
I don't know, is that true?
I heard something about that.
Yeah?
I heard something about that, yeah.
Wow.
Which means he's either a really fantastic singer or the system sucks, you know? It's one or the other.
It could definitely be both or exclusively one, but I don't know. So there's this thing in copyright called the notice and takedown provisions. Mm-hmm. It's really costly for a company, for anybody, to enforce a copyright against an individual YouTube channel, for example, right? Costs a lot of money to file a complaint. It's hundreds of dollars to just do that. You're paying lawyers all the time. It's costly. So they convinced Congress to let them do this thing called notice and takedown, which is where if you think that somebody's infringing a copyright that you own, you can kind of serve notice to whoever's hosting it and say that they have to take it down. Then if you're the person who uploaded it, you can counterclaim. You can say, actually, I have the license to do that, or for whatever reason this is not infringing, and then they can kind of counter you again, and after that you go to court. But so that's like the process, and that's why they added that counterclaim button. I mean it doesn't it works okay if I was gonna say if the goal of copyright is to protect the big industries. That's the goal. Right. Okay, so there's the goal. With that in mind, that works all right? That system kind of makes sense, but it totally sucks for people who are uploading things, people in content creation. Right. Bad news.
And even for a lot of people, one of the biggest examples is, if you're doing a Let's Play of Grand Theft Auto. They have all the radio stations that they've licensed songs to play, but obviously you don't have the license to play that, so you're going to get screwed over if you're playing one of those radio stations, right?
So just from a legal nerd perspective, that's a really interesting question. Because I don't know if GTA has explicitly said that Twitch can broadcast their stuff, because some companies have said that.
Right.
A lot of them have, actually. Only a couple have said no.
I think, okay.
So whose fault is it? Who is infringing in that case? Is it the person who is legally not infringing when they upload a stream? Or is it the game company for not properly getting the full licenses to allow people to stream? I don't know. I mean, we're just making it up in copyright most of the time.
Right, yeah. Okay,
but it's a fun question, I guess.
Well, you know what,
But that just, it adds to the uncertainty. Dude, being a streamer, a content creator on Twitch is bad business.
Yeah.
There's so much uncertainty, and we've talked about this in the past, how there's always been that possibility that a game company could be like, all of this is over, right? Or that a music company could say, no more streaming. Yeah. Now part of that is happening. Well, that's always been a problem. So for a streamer, it's becoming more dangerous to remain a content creator. And at the same time, your highlights are smaller. You have this ridiculous 30-second delay when you're talking to people. People are mad at Twitch. I think with pretty good reason.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I think that they can fix. For example, the whole archiving thing, right? Let's face it, if there's a lot of people that streaming to their friends, archives are probably not going to be very important except for maybe the few people to watch it, right? There should just, I mean, during every 15-minute window or 15-minute chunks, they should just find the max number of viewers that were on the stream. If it's over, say, 250, then it gets archived for a very long period. Maybe even something over 50. Because most streams you look on Twitch at the time, I would say 95% of them are like 10 people or less, right? So if you have just 100 people at some point in time in a 15-minute chunk, then it gets archived a lot longer.
That makes sense.
Because, I mean, like people said, look how much video content exists on YouTube. Now, granted, some people have streamed for like 24 hours, so you get giant chunks of videos. But I got to imagine the amount of content on YouTube is ridiculous.
It's crazy. Right? Like, multiple hours of content are uploaded every minute.
Right, exactly. So if they can hold on to that, and as I'm sure we'll get to this, if Google buys out Twitch, will they all of a sudden have the space? If not, then you only need to save things that get a certain amount of viewers, because once they get that certain amount of viewers, that might mean that they're worthy enough that people want to go to see the archive. You know what I mean? So you can just...
And everybody else can save stuff, but it's in smaller chunks.
Right, well, or something like that. Yeah. So,
you know, like you said, they appear to be open to some degree to changing things up. What's his name? Emmett Shear did a Reddit AMA where people got to ask him whatever questions, by which I mean berate him constantly.
Dude, as soon as I saw Fishstick's post up, he's like, we're doing an AMA. And I was like, get ready for the mob, dude. Because you know it was going to be bad. And there was definitely some questionable things that happened on that AMA from both sides.
Certainly from both sides. For sure. Yeah, he said some inartful things. But everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of other people were dicks to him too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, people have been talking about whether this was inevitable. At some point, Twitch is going to get enough viewers that at least game companies, but also music companies, could get annoyed that their stuff is being infringed constantly.
Right.
Which is probably true. It probably was inevitable. But it's... The reason that they're doing it with respect to music and not with respect to games is entirely about politics. It's not because the people who run the music industry are all about protecting their rights at all costs, and there's none of this thought that game companies now have about how a stream can be advertising and how it can be useful to you. There's none of that thought. It's just about protecting stuff, and so they are litigious, and so you want to protect yourself against litigation, and you insert this thing to try to get a DMCA safe harbor.
It's so ridiculous because on YouTube I can see it, right? People can scour YouTube for audio content. You know, you could be like, I want to hear this song from this album, search it on YouTube. Look, someone uploaded it, let me audio rip it, right? I don't think anyone's ripping any audio from streams. So I just don't even know what the whole point of this is. You know what I mean? And until people start streaming entire albums, I just don't see that's a problem, right?
I think you're right, but I also think that that's not what the music industry cares about. Like, none of these reasonable arguments are worthwhile.
The music industry is still stuck in like 1950 when it comes to copyright problems.
Right. Absolutely. So it may have been inevitable, but it's inevitable for a stupid reason. Like I said, Twitch has been violating copyrights. It's literally what it's built on. The whole time. But now they're at kind of a critical mass. They represent like some actual percentage of all internet traffic.
It's like 40% or something ridiculous like that, right?
No, it's much smaller than that. Of all internet traffic, no. But it's noticeable.
Yeah, but I mean, so here's my like just kind of like a little wrap up thing. Like, so a lot of people have talked about jumping to Hitbox.tv, maybe going to MLG. Is Azubu still doing theirs, right?
I believe so.
So here's the thing, right? Twitch is already established, right? If we all jump to Hitbox, let's just say we all migrate over to Hitbox, it's going to happen to them.
It might, yeah. It probably will.
Yeah, they're eventually going to get to that point already. So there's no point, in my opinion, of a mass exodus to somewhere else. Let's try to make it work with something that's well established right now, right? I mean, that's how I feel. So I don't see any reason to be like, let's jump ship because Twitch is being stupid. Anything that gets big is going to start running into politics and all. It's like when you started a startup company. Right? On Friday nights after work, everyone has a kegger in the office or whatever, and you do all this crazy stuff. And as soon as the company gets big, one person gets drunk and something happens, and it's all over. No more parties, no more not. You know, it's what happens with anything that becomes large and successful. Yeah. So it was inevitable that something like this was going to happen with Twitch. I don't think we should panic. I think we should figure out how to work with it. So. Well,
I think you're right with the copyright stuff. I really don't like other stuff that Twitch does. You know, the archiving thing, the fact that chat is on delay, stuff like that. I really want there to be a good enough competitor to make Twitch like go back on that stuff. There's not. So if enough people go to Hitbox or Zubu or whatever, then maybe that would happen. But I'm not sure. I don't know if it's really something that Twitch is considering or that they would take seriously.
Okay.
So you talked about this potential buyout.
I was just about to go there.
Okay. So it's been in the news a couple of times, right? That Google is going to purchase Twitch,
and then it was like, no, it's not, and then it is.
Exactly. And then some people view this as being kind of proof that they are going to get bought out because they're kind of cleaning things up, maybe in expectation. But in my view, it's the opposite. Actually, they're not using Google's, YouTube's Content ID, which is the system, the automated system. They're using some competitor.
Right.
If there was something, if they were going to have a deal with YouTube, I would think that they would just use Content ID, but they're not. They're using a competitor. And they're not.
And they're all of a sudden scared about storage space.
And storage space, rather if they have infinite Google money, then that's irrelevant.
Dude, you know, you say that like maybe they were sitting there going like, as soon as Google buys us out, we're gonna be in the clear, and then all of a sudden everything's going wrong, and they're like, crap, now we need to figure out how to solve this on our own.
Right? Yeah. So they're putting in this kind of jankier system. They're cleaning it up themselves rather than waiting for the Google takeover. So I don't know. It doesn't seem that great to me for the buyout. It doesn't really seem like a.
Okay, no. I like that. I'm down with that theory.
Yeah, you're on board with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense to me.
Those are my thoughts.
Okay.
About it. So in the meantime, people I think are mostly staying on Twitch. You know this.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about hitbox, as you said, but I don't know if that'll really happen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so far, like I said, they're trying. The Twitch guys are trying. You can tell they're putting in a lot of systems. They're trying to figure out ways to make it work. And so I just say let's stick it out and see what we can get out of them and see if we can make things work. So,
somebody asked a question up there. Let me just. Do you mind if I just scroll this up a little bit?
Ahead.
There's something about Dota. Oh yeah, okay. Senor El Roboto 6 says, "Hey David, one Dota 2 studio was talking about maybe getting a radio license so their streamers would be able to use whatever music they want. What's my opinion on that? That'd be great.
Yeah.
That would really make a lot of sense. That would be like the most expensive radio license ever. Right. The way that radio licenses work is that they are bigger if you're expected to get more listeners. So if you're like a little mom and pop restaurant and you get a radio license to play radio in your restaurant, that might not be very expensive. But if you are like the Superdome and you want to get a radio license and there are going to be however many tens of thousands of people there, that's going to be way more money. So if you're Dota, if you're Valve, and you want to get a radio license for like your millions of people, I don't know, dude. Yeah. That would be so expensive.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because there's too many people.
So many people, gotcha. Okay, so many people would be hearing it effectively.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I don't know if that's practical, but it's a great idea.
But I'm just wondering, because there's a lot of bands out there who have already been like, hey, you can play my stuff on your Twitch.
Right, yeah.
Completely. I'm totally cool with that. I mean, obviously, word of mouth, them saying it on Twitter or whatever, is not going to stop their automated process from still flagging it. You just basically get a free counter You
Right.
know what I mean? Because that's the thing about the way the YouTube one works as well. It's not like someone scouring the internet looking for their music and going, "Oh, you use my music counter." It's literally all automated based on. I mean, if you think about it, Shazam technology, right? It's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. Wait, hold on. I was going to make a point, but what was your last point? Because mine was built off that. There was something you just said like a minute ago.
I hate it when this happens.
What was I going to say?
Well, you were talking about how it would be really expensive for the football thing.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And
then what happened?
And then I said, geez. The people on YouTube, on Twitter were like, hey, you can use our music for free.
Oh, yeah, this thing. Yeah. So that's why we're using this public domain radio.
Right, yeah.
Okay, that's... Dude, however much legal stuff I was just talking, I can't remember what happened right now. So that's why we have this public domain stuff going on. It's from the 1920s. It's from a period of time when there was copyright, but that copyright has run out.
Yeah.
So it's it's no longer. So it's easy for us to do public domain stuff. So if you're interested, there's lots of music out there that's public domain because it's old. But there's also a lot of stuff that's public domain because people just release it into the wild.
Right.
You're talking about some of the bands that do that, whether it's literally public domain, that is to say nobody owns any rights to it, or if there's a Creative Commons license, which is kind of a similar thing to copyright, but it's more it lets more people do more things with whatever the music is. So search out those things if you're interested in playing music on your stream. A lot of it is good music.
Yeah, there was actually someone who, before even this all happened, I don't know if he had like inside knowledge or something, but a guy by the name of Matt Demers, I think it is, on Twitter, actually just sent me a link that was like, here's an article that I wrote all about where you can acquire free reign music.
Okay.
And so I tweeted that out at one point. I don't remember what his Twitter is. It's something like at Matt Demers, but it might be 1 T or 2 M's or whatever like that. I can't remember right now. But yeah, I mean, remember when YouTube started cracking down on things, that's when we started playing classical music as well, right?
That's right.
So classical and all this jazz music and stuff like that, it's all free domain. So yeah, there you go. So I hope you guys like the music. So
I think the music is... I can't hear what's going on right now, but
okay.
I've listened to this stuff for since I found it. I've just like listening to it at work for like hours.
I personally love jazz music. It's like one of the most relaxing music that I think that exists. So I'm totally down with it. So, yep.
Okay. Anything else to talk about with Twitch?
No, not that I can think of right now. So let's go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll start discussing some other stuff.
Sounds
All right,
good.
Be right back.